When Francis was elected, many claimed that he was Petrus Romanus, the last pope on the list, and that his pontificate would take place in the midst of great tribulation for the Church and mark the beginning of a restoration. Welcome, dear brothers. Today we are going to analyze how the prophecy of Saint Malachy regarding the popes seems to have not been fulfilled despite having accurately described previous popes. When Francis was elected, many claimed that he was Petrus Romanus, the last pope on the list, and that his pontificate would take place in the midst of great tribulation for the Church and mark the beginning of a restoration. But that has not happened, and curiously, the motto placed in position 112 of the prophecy has no number like the others, which suggests a different interpretation. Here, we will talk about the lessons that Pope Francis' pontificate leaves us to better interpret prophecy of Saint Malachy, and most importantly, what it means for the profile of the next pope that we should expect. Stay tuned because this will surely interest you, and you won't find it anywhere else. We remind you to subscribe to this channel by activating the notification bell. Now, the pontificate of Francis forces us to reconsider the interpretation of Saint Malachy's prophecy. The hypothesis of Father Juan Manuel de Gartua is beginning to gain legitimacy. He proposed that Petrus Romanus, the last motto of Saint Malachy's prophecy, does not refer to just one pope, but rather two popes. However, now that we can see things more clearly, we should consider that it is not just two popes, but rather two groups of popes. One group would be the popes of tribulation, who will guide the Church through persecution and apostasy, what Gartua refers to as impersecutions. The other group would be the popes of restoration, who will reign at the moment of Jesus Christ's intervention, immediately before the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the new Pentecost, and the era of peace. These are the ones whom Gartua properly calls Petrus Romanus. The final motto that Saint Malachy describes under the title Petrus Romanus says the following: In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, Peter the Roman will reign, who will shepherd his flock amid many tribulations. After this, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge would judge his people. Here, Gartua sees two popes. On the other hand, in Garabandal, the Virgin told Conchita that after the death of John 23rd, there would be only 3 more popes before the end of times, plus one who would not be counted due to his short pontificate. After John the 23rd came Paul VI, John Paul I, who reigned for only 33 days and was not counted, John Paul II, and Benedict XVI. According to this prophecy, then, the end of times began with the pontificate of Francis. However, the fact that the Great Tribulation has not yet fully unfolded leads us to conclude that we are still within the first phase of Petrus Romanus and at the beginning of the popes of persecution. Because if we were truly at the end, we should have already seen an open persecution of the Church, possibly the collapse of the Vatican, and scandals of even greater impact. And since Francis' pontificate did not take place in the Great Tribulation as many expected, we should expect that at least the pope who follows him will govern during a period of greater tribulation, in the midst of an even greater apostasy, and under pressure from the world to adapt the Church to its values. The Church cannot simply isolate itself from the world, unless it enters into an open conflict with it, which it has not done. On the other hand, Francis has not been characterized as a strictly defender of the faith of the apostles, but rather, his pontificate has followed an open approach, similar to that of John the 23rd. This is reflected in his emphasis on dialogue with the world and ecumenism, often putting Catholic identity in the background. His support for theological interpretations that have generated doctrinal confusion, such as Amoris Laetitia and Fiducia Supplicans. His persecution of the traditional Latin Mass. His lack of a firm stance against apostasy in some sectors of the Church. These characteristics place him within the first phase of Petrus Romanus, but they also indicate that, since the Great Tribulation has not yet begun in full force, the next pope will not yet be a leader of the restoration of the faith. Rather, he will be a pope who continues to grapple with the current crisis, and who will likely have to face an increasingly hostile world toward the Church and negotiate with it. Some elements that could define his profile in the best-case scenario would be a pope who tries to maintain a balance between traditional faith and modern world pressures without making radical changes. A pope who faces greater political and social pressure against the Church, potentially leading to the first major signs of persecution. A pontificate that is brief, paving the way for a more drastic change with the following pope. This aligns with St. Pius X's prophecy, in which he said he saw one of his successors fleeing among the corpses of his brothers and dying assassinated. If the next pope faces such a situation, we could be getting closer to the most intense phase of the tribulation. And in the worst-case scenario, we could have a pope under the influence of the evil one, as prophesied in Akita and by Fathers Gabriel Amorth and Malachi Martin. Then, after the popes of tribulation, the second phase of Petrus Romanus would come, the popes of restoration. At this point, Jesus Christ will intervene through the warning in the midst of the tribulation, and these popes will be the ones to purify the Church, correcting errors and preparing the way for the angelic pope. This great prophesied figure will completely restore the faith. However, for this to happen, the tribulation must reach its peak. Thus, the great persecution has not yet begun in full force, and neither has the restoration of the faith. This confirms that Petrus Romanus is not a single pope, but rather a phase in the history of the Church. And since we are still in the phase of tribulation, the next pope will not be a restorer. Instead, he will be a leader who must confront a church in crisis and an increasingly hostile world, negotiating with it. Well, that's the conclusion of what we should expect from the next popes. And the next conclave will be key to confirming this interpretation. Now, if you liked what we discussed and analyzed, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We would love to know your thoughts in the comments. And let me ask you, beyond your personal preferences, what kind of pope do you think the next conclave is most likely to elect? May God bless you.
Welcome to Mother in Refuge of the End Times. We are excited to be releasing our 4th book of prayers, introducing our most comprehensive book of prayers to date, entitled My Daily Prayer Book, Hope of a New Heaven and a New Earth. This collection of the most beautiful prayers is dedicated to and inspired by the Queen and Mother of the End Times. As is seen on the cover page, immerse yourself in the profound richness of Catholic tradition with Mother in Refuge of the End Times, My Daily Prayer Book. This meticulously curated collection features prayers for every moment and every occasion, providing spiritual support and inspiration throughout your day. Begin each morning with powerful prayers like the morning offering in the prayer to obtain the grace of all the world's masses. Deepen your devotion with prayers dedicated to the divine will and the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Honor significant moments with consecration prayers, including those to our Blessed Mother, Saint Joseph, in the most Sacred Heart of Jesus, Engage in heartfelt devotions to the precious blood in the Holy Rosary, and find comfort in the timeless supplications to Our Lady. Enhance your spiritual armor with prayers for protection, conversion, reparation in the Holy Trinity. This comprehensive prayer book also includes special sections for confession, Mass, the Holy Souls, bedtime, and saint intercessions, ensuring you are spiritually fortified at all times. Perfect for personal devotion or as a thoughtful gift, this prayer book is your companion in faith, offering solace, strength, and a deeper connection with God. Enrich your spiritual journey today and embrace the power of prayer with Mother and Refuge of the End Times, My Daily Prayer Book. As always, we thank you so much for your support of this ministry, and may the Lord always shed His grace and love upon you.